Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, I was married to my ex-husband for 8 years. We have a 7-year-old daughter together. He had a 2.5-year affair on me with his now girlfriend. My fiancé is the ex-husband to my ex-husband's now girlfriend, if that makes sense. He has a 5-year-old son with her, and they've been together since college. She's been having a 2.5-year affair with my ex. Me and my fiancé have known each other for 5 years, but been together for 3 years after we divorced. I love that man so much. He makes me happy every day. We barely argue, and when we do, it's not explosive and hurtful. He's just so sweet, funny, thoughtful, and handsome. He's great in the bed, too. We both made this inside joke on how did we both get cheated on, because the other one is so perfect. He said it was a blessing in disguise that he was cheated on, because he met me and my daughter. He loves my daughter so much, and my girl loves him. I also adore his son. I love him as if I gave birth to him myself. We are basically a happy, loving family. My ex-husband and his ex-wife has never been happy about our relationship. They both say it makes them uncomfortable, and they always say that we are probably with each other to get back at them. They've been trying to break us up. For example, for a while my ex will send him a 2-paragraph text on how I'm good for a short time. Then the hell will start happening. He cursed him out and blocked him. His ex was texting and calling me, telling on how he was aggressive, and he was mean to her, and that's why she cheated. I don't believe her, because she will call me and tell me her marriage to him was amazing. He was just boring. She second-guesses herself all the time. That's why I don't believe her when she says he is aggressive. Before, they called both of our families, telling them how we cheated first, and that's why we divorced. His ex will say things like she will put him on child support for $5,000 a month, and tells him he's not allowed near his son. We also went to a birthday party for a family member, and they were there. My ex was telling everyone about how I was loose, and how I stink, and should have spit in my face when I first asked him out. My boyfriend heard about this, and went up to him and punched him in the face. Those are a few of many other incidents. After that, we all decided to keep a further distance from each other, so we moved. We didn't go too far, just 50 minutes drive to them. They've left us alone for the past 1.5 years. Anyway, last month was both of our D-Days, and we like to celebrate with each other as a family. It became more like a tradition. This year, he told me he wanted to take me on a vacation. We let the kids go to their other parents, and we went to Paris for a week. It's been everything and more until the last night. We just had a heart-to-heart, and he was crying and thanking me for everything, because being betrayed like that almost destroyed him. He just told me that he believes in us, and in our family. Then he proposed. That was one of the best nights of my life. When we got back home, he did a mini proposal to my daughter and bought her a ring with a lot of flowers, and I did a mini proposal to his son. I got him a mini golden watch with a few toys. April was a really good time for all of us. I don't know how, but this month his ex found out about our engagement and has been blowing up my phone asking me about it. So is my ex. We've been ignoring them because it is really not their business. Every time they drop the kids off, they always ask to stay and talk. We say no every time. For the past few weeks, they've been harassing us, telling us it's not going to work or how it's a waste of time. They involved our family. Both families say it's not a good idea because we are going to hurt and confuse the kids when they get older. A lot of ex-friends who knew about the affair says that too. The worst part is the kids. When my fiancé picks up the kids, they were both crying and screaming, telling him that they hate us and how we are gross. They've been ignoring us and will almost always demand to talk to their other parents. This part really hurt me last night when my daughter called me an S. I'm not mad at them because obviously they are being told to do this, but it is painful. We've been trying to explain about the past, but it's really hard to explain to them because we don't want to go through all the detail because they are still kids. It's gotten so bad that I talked about ending our engagement. He was really mad and crying bad when I was talking about that. I really don't know what to do right now. I'm so mad and sad because this is the first time in my life that I'm genuinely happy and felt love again, but then my ex-husband is ducking ruining it. He's ducking ruining it, and we're not even together. I just really need to rant because right now me and my fiance have nobody to talk to because everyone's against us. Please, any advice is needed." What the heck? They both cheated, and now OP and her fiance, who are happy together, are the guilty ones. OP should get as far away from those two as possible and enjoy her happy life with her fiance. It's understandable they'd have a problem with seeing OP and her fiance happy. It's likely a form of projecting. I think it's important to consider that this is likely still very fresh for them, and that it is possible that the anger and obsession OP is seeing from them will dissipate over time. OP might give it some time, but also needs to stay firm in her new relationship and not let anything they do or say affect how OP and her fiance feel about each other. A long time ago, I had children with my ex, and he left me after our third child was born. Now, if I could go back and actually use condoms, I would, because the pull method clearly doesn't work. Anyway, I was a single mother and my mental health was declining while I was getting stressed having 3 kids. I wanted to blow off steam some nights, so I would leave my 4, 3, and 2-year-old alone some nights just to party. Now, was this wrong? Yes. Am I the a-hole for that? Yes. Long story short, eventually complaints were made and CPS got involved, and investigation concludes I was extremely neglectful and I had my children taken away. Now, after they were removed, I could have fought for my children, but being single and child-free was wonderful, especially since I was 25 at the time. So I just didn't fight for my children and eventually lost my rights as a mother. 3 years after, I fell in love with a better man, and we've been together since. We have been thinking of having a child and started having conversations about it. Crap hit the fan when my mother found out. She was over at my house. In my area, we in stage 3, one day, and my husband just made a comment on how he can't wait for our children to start running around the house. This is when my mother got angry and demanded to tell her if I was pregnant or not. I was honest with her about my partner and I thinking about having a child. She lost her crap and started spazzing at me about how I am the last person on the planet who should have another child, especially since I didn't fight for my older children. I screamed back at her that I would have gotten abortions, but her and my father's guilt tripped me into having children when I wasn't ready because it's ungodly to have an abortion and sinful to murder children. It turns into an argument and my mother storms out in my house. Now, my husband knew about the children and how I lost my rights as a mother. I start crying, but he shrugs his shoulders and said, "Your mother has a point though." We got in an argument and apparently to my mother and husband, I was an a-hole for what I did to my children. My husband and I made up yesterday. However, my mother is still mad at me. She apologizes for the things she said, but she stands by her comment of how I shouldn't have another child and I need to acknowledge I was a bad mother. I got mad and said her bad parenting caused me to be a bad parent, and it's been years now, and I've grown and changed and realized my mistakes with my older children. We're currently not talking right now, and no one else in the family knows about the argument that took place. Am I the a-hole for even thinking about having another child when I lost my other 3 children to the foster care system? The fact that OP actually had all 3 of them taken away speaks volumes. I cannot believe OP is using the "I was young" excuse at 25. 25 is absolutely old enough to know to not do that to your children. OP was an adult then, and she is an adult now. If OP ends up having more children, and she and her boyfriend split up, it'll be the same thing all over again. OP needs to make peace with the fact that she is likely not fit to be a parent. But I'm sure that she is going to do it anyway. When I was 14, my sister 19 married a man from Jamaica. We are fully American, so this was a cultural shock. From 2004, I began to accompany my sister to Jamaica every year to visit his family. The trip has always been enjoyable, and I look forward to it, until about 2009. From the beginning, his family was welcoming and embraced my sister and myself as extended cousins. Through the duration of the trip, random relatives would comment on our belongings and how hard life was in Jamaica. We grew up poor in a poor neighborhood in New York City. Regardless, because we are American, our poor is still several steps above theirs, and I was taught to acknowledge my privilege from that first trip. By the end of the trip, My sister and I had given away practically everything we came with. Granted, it was rainbow clothing and Vim, think 2004. But we ended up coming back to America with just our phones and sneakers we originally brought with us. We bought tourist clothes on arrival that we ended up wearing back. This happened each time, and I grew accustomed to giving my extended family everything I came with. Forward to 2009. I brought a really nice luggage set from VS Pink. Yes, it was a splurge, but as I knew I would be using it for the foreseeable future, I justified it. Per usual, I emptied out my suitcase, gifting stuff to family members. When I refused to part with my luggage, I was scolded for acting like a privileged American. Mother likened my attitude to looking down on her family. Granted, I was a selfish 19-year-old, but I had worked hard for this luggage set and didn't want to part with it. I wouldn't understand why this one time I couldn't keep what was rightfully mine. My sister scolded me in private later, said I was an embarrassment, and I knew how this goes, so I shouldn't have brought the luggage with me. By the end of the trip, everyone was calling me a selfish brat and American, like it was a derogatory word. Nonetheless, I refused to go back to Jamaica with them since, to my sister's disappointment. Still, I have consistently donated to the barrel her family sends throughout the year. This year, my sister decided to plan Christmas in Jamaica. She has been guilting me into going since I haven't been back to see his family in almost 11 years, and they continually ask about me and send me well wishes. His mom thinks I should have moved on by now as well as my sister. I am doing well for myself and all of my clothes are branded. They are not labels, but still brands. I have a really nice luggage set that I use to travel. I do not want to waste any money on cheap clothes and cheap luggage, and I packed a carry-on filled with items to give away. I told my sister I would stay away from his family's house as to not have to give away anything I come with, and she is saying that is insulting to her husband. With everything in consideration, am I the a-hole for refusing to stay at his mom's house because I do not want to give away more than I want to give? Not an a-hole. I've seen this cultural difference watching 90 Day Fiancé, guilting pleasures. But the onus should fall on OP's sister and her husband, not OP. OP didn't marry into the family. Why must OP support them? This is a burden for OP's sister and husband to bear. In my eyes, OP is a guest. Of course, they don't see it that way because OP is American. Compulsive gambling runs in my family, and I am no different. Fortunately, I had a father who went through great pains to ensure that my urges are channeled productively. The end result is that while I am an avid gambler, I don't cause any problems in the other areas of my life. I've been gambling for over a decade now, and it hasn't become an issue in any way. Last weekend, the cousins and I decided to get together via a video conference, as we're all in state-enforced lockdown, and when asked whether anything interesting has happened in my life recently, I responded, sarcastically, that I lost $500 in a poker game the other week. One of my cousins, Theodore, whose life had been ruined by his compulsive gambling, started lecturing me on the pitfalls of gambling. While well-intended, Theodore's advice was nonetheless unsolicited. At first, I tried to be polite, explaining to him that I go to great lengths to ensure my gambling is responsible, but he wouldn't let up. The rant went long enough that the other cousins intervened by asking him to stop. But Theodore wouldn't budge, stubbornly stating that no, JDP Phoenix needs to hear this. All throughout this, I remained patient and understanding. That is, until Theodore decided to bring up my ex. Earlier this year, my partner of a decade unexpectedly broke up with me. She was the love of my life, who I planned my entire life around, so I am still reeling from the breakup. To be clear, the breakup had nothing to do with my gambling. So when Theodore speculated, be honest with me, your gambling is why Bridget broke up with you, isn't it? It rubbed me the wrong way. Admittedly, I could have conducted myself with more tact, but this subject is a sore spot, so my tone became increasingly sharp with every word. No, and my breakup is no business of yours. This conversation is over. And still Theodore did not relent. You need to stop lying to yourself. Have you ever considered that you'd still be with Bridget if you only had faced your issues? Here's when I cracked. Duck you. Just because you're the degenerate that gambled away his family's livelihood doesn't mean you know anything about Bridget and I. I then hung up, and haven't spoken to Theodore since. Some of my other cousins feel that I went too far, especially since Theodore's heart was in the right place. But regardless of Theodore's intentions, what he said was uncalled for, which in turn made my reaction justified. But I am open to being told I am wrong. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. Do I have a gambling problem? Compulsive gambling is clinically defined as the uncontrollable urge to keep gambling, despite the negative impact it has on the gambler's life. As my gambling does not have a negative impact on my life, I do not have a gambling disorder by definition. I didn't want to say this because it could be interpreted obnoxiously, but I'm in the privileged position that losing $500 here and there does not impact my financial security. I've been responsibly gambling for over a decade, only putting up what I can afford to lose, and only in my dedicated downtime. My gambling really is just a hobby I am passionate about. Edit 2. Why did my partner break up with me? My ex did not break up with me over anything related to my gambling. We broke up because she changed her mind regarding our initial decision not to have children. Maybe one day I'll be ready to father a child, but until then, it wouldn't be fair on the child to bring one into the world, even if it's for the love of my life. Yes, an a-hole. Why is it that OP thinks Theodore has a problem, but OP doesn't? OP still gambled away $500. Methinks OP doesn't protest too much. OP seems to think, I only gamble a little, but all the time, so it's fine. Then clearly Theodore understands the pitfalls and issues with gambling because he ruined his life. OP brought this up in front of a known gambling addict in recovery. He was worried about OP, and even though he made assumptions and pushed the conversation where OP didn't want it to go, which is why he sucks, OP is the one who started the conversation about gambling. I really think OP isn't understanding his gambling issues and just thinks, well, I'm not as bad as Theodore, other family members, so I'm okay.